Hello, people of the internet. My name is JD Shadow, and I want to touch upon a particular thing that Jim Sterling had said about the Nintendo allegations when they were doing their Jimquistion concerning whether or not games are long or long enough or too long. And I will talk about that particular topic in another video if I get around to it, because I think this particular thing is of a little bit more urgent. Now, before I go any further, I'm not doing this on a script. I have done scripts in the past when talking about the Jimquisitions, because there is a particular pronoun that Jim Sterling uses, and I don't want to get it wrong, and I sometimes do if I go off the script. So I do want to mention that if I do end up doing that within the contents of this video, I do apologize. That's not my intention. That being said, however, I do want to get into one particular thing that Jim is saying concerning the Nintendo allegations. Now, for those people who do not know what this actually is, these are the claims of misconduct which the mainstream establishment media was talking about. And remember, please support independent critics and reviewers and journalists, because that's what makes the checks and balances toward these people all the more possible. But I want to bring into question what Jim said at the end of the Jimquistion, which was this.
You will have noticed, in fact some people have really gotten on my case about it, that the Jimquistion episodes lately have been more of a light affair. I mean, obviously we couldn't not talk about the Domino guy, but I'm taking a little bit of a sabbatical regarding talking about horrific abuse in the game industry, not because I don't want to. Well, I mean, I don't want to because it's horrible, but that's also why I'm taking a break. I need a break. I had someone the other day implying that I was protecting Nintendo by not talking about the rampant sexism in the company, even though I have covered its abuses before, and I do, as always, encourage you to pirate all of Nintendo's games. It's the morally right thing to do. Just get off my face. Okay? And thank God for me while you're at it.
And of course, we probably all know why Rufus wanted to put that pirating thing in there. They believe that by doing that, that we couldn't let you hear the actual quote in context, because by doing that, that we would get demonetized. But there are ways around that, Rufus. Nice try. Don't pirate games. And by the way, pirating and copyright infringement are two separate things. Just so we can separate the two, we can still parse it. Anyway, of course, I'm not going to talk about, at least in this video, the issue about the developer that Jim is talking about with the whole drama that went on there. I have a few things I want to talk about with that. However, I do want to touch upon what Jim said about Nintendo and some of the allegations there. The news stories had came out, the main news stories in which Doug Bowser was talking about it occurred around the middle of August. Right around that point. Ever since then, we have not heard anything new or groundbreaking or breaking news about it. So, with that being said, Jim is saying that they are going to be a little more lighthearted because they need a break. How about the irony of that? Jim is saying, hey, they need a break, but gets angry and triggered whenever someone is telling them that they need a break from Jim's constant talks about political matters and being militant about it. Nothing wrong with talking about political matters on your videos, but there is a point in time where people do feel uncomfortable in disagreeing with you, even in a more nuanced point of view, when the fundamental parts that you're saying they would agree with. So Jim's getting it wrong there as well. However, but I believe the real reason that Jim is not wanting to talk about these topics, specifically Nintendo, is that there is a bit of a chance that these allegations were false. Doug Bowser has said that they are investigating the claims. We have not heard anything about it since then. And we all know how Jim will be like. They believe that if there's an allegation, there is truth in the allegation, regardless of how much investigation there is to go about. And Doug Bowser had condemned the actions, but they were going to be doing the investigation. Now, that means there is due process here. And that means that Doug Bowser is allegedly doing the due diligence in trying to figure out what is going on. Now, until we get more information about what is going on and if these allegations have any kind of weight behind them, we cannot safely determine whether or not anything like that had actually gone on. Now, I don't know if there's any previous allegations that were deemed to be true, or were there any allegations before this whole thing came about. However, I believe the fact that Doug Bowser is saying this is a feather in his cap and shows that there is some goodwill coming from Doug Bowser and Nintendo in figuring out what's going on. And again, the only reason I'm saying that is alleged, or I'm not saying that it is or isn't, is because there's no smoking gun. There's nothing there to really determine one way or another. So it's more of a legal matter there. Don't want to assume that something is true until we get all the facts. Right now, these are just allegations, and again, due diligence and due process have to play a role here. However, I believe Jim is not wanting to be wrong, but Jim is also trying to do a roundabout way in order to say that this is true, but they just don't want to say that they believe it is true, even though they believe it is. If they come out and say this actually happened and base their opinions around the notion that they believe it did happen the way the allegations said it did, and then the internal investigation, I would believe there had to be a third-party investigation too, would say, hey, this didn't happen. We figured out that it might have been a revenge scandal or a revenge scheme, or there was a false flag or something along those lines. Then that would call into question their other opinions about Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard. Now, Activision Blizzard was proven to be true, and several people exited stage left, did a mass exodus on Activision Blizzard products. Jim does not give those gamers any benefit of the doubt there. Does not give those gamers any credit. I've said this many times before. Why does Jim not give them any credit for doing what they should have been doing there? And of course, with Ubisoft, that's a weird case because there is something saying that maybe some things have been fixed. Yet Jim still says that people were going and buying Ubisoft products and don't care about these allegations. They do care about the allegations, they just feel as though things have gotten better since the allegations first came out. That has to be factored in, and Jim never does that. But the things that Doug Bowser said, and you can read them for yourself, I'll post the link down below in the comments if I remember to do that. Most of the time I say I'm going to and I forget to do that. But his comments show to me, at least right now, and I don't have any reason to doubt him as to his due diligence of this sort of thing, and this is an awful thing. If it turns out to be true, it is an awful thing that has to be taken care of immediately for obvious reasons. I don't think anybody has to tell anybody about that. All gamers want for those developers, regardless of their gender, sexual orientation, race, or religion, to be in a productive and non-toxic environment where they feel like they can work as equals and get along with each other as equals in the company. But if it does turn out to be true, then they do need to take steps in order to correct this behavior. But I don't think Jim is being honest with people here. I think they believe it is true, but don't want to be wrong, because what if they were wrong? But knowing Jim's past, they don't want to say that it might be wrong. But also, keep in mind who else covered this whole thing. Clownfish TV had also covered this thing. And they had said, Neon had said, that they cannot see a company like Nintendo, who is known for being squeaky clean, engaging in behavior like this. And Doug Bowser, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is being credited by Neon of being due diligent here as well. My take as why Jim did not give any credit to any gamer who was exiting out of the Activision Blizzard ecosystem is because those people that exit there were those that Jim would get in trouble if they agreed with him. I'm talking about Asmongold, I'm talking about Clownfish, I'm talking about the Quartering, I'm talking about Review Tech USA, I'm talking about anybody in between, I'm talking about Angry Joe. Those types of people who Jim has repeatedly slaughtered verbally on their channel concerning other things and being quote-unquote right-wing and being against them on some of these political topics. And we've all seen how toxic Jim can get about the topics that they cover. It's not the topics that they cover in of itself, is their framing of it and ability to recognize that there might be nuances within that same perspective. You might have a fundamental agreement, but don't have an agreement about the details or how we achieve certain goals. And yes, some content creators can be dumpster fires, but here's the problem with this. I also suspect that Jim is working alongside Kotaku and Polygon and RPS and PC Gamer. They are part of that ecosystem. They're the kinds of people that would go against some of the more independent YouTube creators, that's Asmongold and Clownfish and those types of people. Or myself, if I want to put myself in there and inflate my own ego there. I only wish I was as big as those people are. But anyway, I digress. The fact of the matter is, if Jim were to say that the reason why they are not covering some of the allegations of Nintendo, and I only use that because they specifically identified that particular one, if they said, hey, these are just allegations, I am going to wait until I get confirmation that the allegations were truthful in order for me to safely go and make a video concerning this, then Jim would go against what they have always done, which was to put the cart before the horse here. In this case, wait for the allegations to be proven right or wrong, and then base your opinion around the proven allegations or whether or not due process was done before you come out with your opinion. And Jim is not one to do that very often. And if Jim did that, then their audience would think a bit twice. Like, why are you saying this now when you have been on our side time and time again? Remember, the Jimquistion subreddit or the Jim Sterling subreddit does not allow dissenting viewpoints of Jim's content. We have seen that before, and strangely enough, the YouTube comment sections of Jim's videos show that strangely everybody seems to agree with Jim, that there's no pushback. I wonder why that is. Maybe they're deleting comments. Maybe there's something to that. I have no way of knowing that. I'm just speculating, and that's just a speculatory comment that I'm making, but it's sort of weird that there seems to be very little pushback of anything Jim ever says, and there's no place where you can post your pushback there to where anybody really cares or that anybody really gets into the weeds about what was said. They just say, oh, well, Jim went down this rabbit hole, or went down this conspiracy theory, or put the cart before the horse. That they don't really get into the weeds of anything. They don't get into the weeds of what he is saying about certain things with the Supreme Court. He doesn't get pushback very often at all about things like NFTs, or about their viewpoints about these allegations, or about people's opinions about Ubisoft, or why hasn't Jim given any credit to any gamer that had ever exited out of the Activision Blizzard ecosystem. So no, I don't believe that Jim is just wanting to go lighthearted. Jim never has done that. Jim has never went to that. Oh, I need a break. Well, we've needed a break from the militant, toxic way they express their viewpoints for a year now. Maybe even 2 years. They're just now saying they need a break? I believe there's something more to this. I believe they just don't want to admit that with the Nintendo of America thing, this might be a false flag. And it might be completely true. I'm not going to speculate on that. The investigation is still ongoing as far as I'm aware because there's nothing else that's came out about it. But after all of that, Jim needs a break? I don't buy that. I really don't buy that. I think Jim is trying to protect their image here and trying to run about way to do that. But here's the thing. If they believe that it might be false, why can't you just say that, Jim? Why can't you just say that? Because we would value your opinion a lot better if you say, hey, I'm going to wait until the investigation is done before I go about and say my piece about it. Why can't you just say that? Because we would be on your side with that. And if it turns out to be true and you rip them a new one, we would be on your side there. But don't do this roundabout way because you're so afraid to agree with other YouTubers you don't like on a personal level. Because there's YouTubers you don't like on a personal level, they might be on your side 99% of the time, but you go about calling them right wing because they don't agree with that one little thing that you've said that pushes you over the line, pushes you over the edge, goes crossing the line, which they are not willing to cross. It is okay to admit that you agree with the majority of gamers with their exodus of Activision Blizzard. It's okay to admit that you agree with Clownfish about the Activision Blizzard diversity thing they try to make. It's okay to agree with some people you would not normally agree with. That's called unity. That's called being able to work together for a common goal. Yes, we are sick and tired, as you are, about the corporate greed that goes on in places like Ubisoft and Activision, especially EA. And we're with you on that. But you gotta understand that just because we agree with you on fundamental aspects, we might have a different path to get to where we need to be. We might take a different fork. We might understand that there might be something else that might be causing the problem. And calling all of us right-wing, or an AZI word that you keep using nowadays, if you would just be honest and to just say, hey, we may not agree on every single issue. We might have a different take on how to achieve certain goals or what might be the cause of the problem, even though we might want the same solution. We might want the same end result. If you stop working against YouTubers and stop working with the people like Kotaku, Polygon, and realize they're part of the problem as well, because they're encouraging and enabling things like Activision Blizzard. They're part of the problem. They're part of the ecosystem. They're probably getting paid by Activision Blizzard. They're probably getting paid by Ubisoft. One of the main reasons we thought that Jason Schreier was sitting on that whole Activision Blizzard story is because Activision Blizzard was paying his bills. And print media, those journalists don't necessarily have to disclose that information. They don't necessarily have to say that they're getting paid in order to keep their mouth shut about it, or getting bribed to keep their mouth shut about it. I don't know if that's happened with Jason Schreier, but I still don't have any love lost for him. By the way, incognito dude, I can still see your tweets. You're not getting away from me. I'm still gonna call you out because that's my job. But stop being afraid of agreeing with some of these people, because if we're all on the same page, then that is the point on your book. You don't need to alienate them by trying to call them out, like, oh, I don't want to be on their side. Yes, you do, at least on this issue. You know what I would do if you were on my side on one particular aspect, which I believe you would be about a few of these issues? Good. More strength in order to get something done, to get something changed. If you keep alienating the very people who would be on your side and would fight for change to come to places like Activision Blizzard, or if this turns out to be true to Nintendo America. Imagine if the right and left wing did unite against a common enemy. We would get a lot more done than we are right now. That's the problem. That's why Activision Blizzard is getting away with stuff. That's why they got away with stuff. That's why Ubisoft got away with so much stuff. Is because we were too busy fighting amongst ourselves. Jim was too busy fighting with so-called right-wing YouTubers who were doing takedowns of their videos. Instead of doing that, say, hey, wait a minute, if I wasn't so polarizing and so militant and so alienating, we might have actually solved this issue with Activision Blizzard long before it got to the point where it got. Maybe that's part of the problem, is that these people are trying to drive us apart and are calling us names when we need to be working together. Gamers need to be working together, not trying to alienate everybody. And that means any orientation or gender or religion or anything in between. There is a common enemy, and it's the establishment here, both with the gaming companies and the gaming media, and they're working together to drive us apart. And if Jim's a part of the gaming media establishment, then we need to call that out too. But we're trying to put the benefit of the doubt here, and I'm rambling on so long. So I'm going to stop this here because you probably got my point by now. I'm guilty of doing that. Thank you for watching. I will try see if I could get that other stuff, what he said, if I think it's worthy of talking about. And the Dominion guy, I'll probably talk about it if I feel as though that's worthy of talking about. By the way, you people have been asking me to continue the miraculous reactions. I hear you. I need to get more of the stuff put together, and we might be getting back to that. So stay tuned for that. I had to talk about this. Until next time, my name's JD Shadow. That just happened.